everyone, I am your astrologer Wonder Girl, taking you to new heights. This is your forecast for the full moon in Pisces happening on September 14th, 2019 at 12:32 a.m. Eastern time, or depending on what part of the country or the world you're in, or it's happening on Friday, September 13th, 2019 at 9:32 p.m. Pacific time. So I wish I could tell you it's a straight up Friday the 13th full moon, but it depends on where you are for that to happen. What I think this full moon in Pisces is really all about, I think, is going to be about releasing the past, letting go of the past in a major way, letting go of old chapters, especially old chapters in your life that were bad, that you did not like. It's time to release that, the habits, the emotions, everything that came with that, so that you can start to step into a new chapter that you feel you like better, way better, is more meaningful to you and makes you feel more whole, more peace, and just more emotionally fulfilled. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, if you like this video, if you like what I have to say, the way I speak, talk, communicate, my style, my astrology, then please check out other videos that I do. I do a lot more videos than what I do on YouTube. I do them on my website. I've got daily horoscope videos. I do one video every single day. I do one video every week, weekly horoscopes. I do one video every month on the astrology. So if you like what I got going on here and you feel it really resonates with you and supports you and uplifts you, please check those videos out on my website, www.wondergirlastrology.com. You can either purchase those videos one by one, or you can sign up for my subscription service and get those delivered to you every single day. They're actually pretty long videos. They're about 15 to 20 minutes each that I do, and a lot of times 40 minutes or plus. So do that. Also, if you want just to have a conversation with your natal chart, to understand your natal chart, your birth chart, your personality traits, also know that I have sessions available as well, 30-minute and 1-hour options to help you with that. I know your natal chart can't speak to you, that it doesn't, I can't talk back, and so for that reason, I would like to try my best to be the voice for your natal chart so that you can actually have a conversation with it. But if that's something you're interested in, please hit me up. Also on my website, www.wondergirlastrology.com. Now, without further delay, let's get to the astrology, which is why you're here in the first place. I'm actually not. Where do I want to start? Like, part of me actually doesn't even want to start with the full moon in Pisces, which is like a weird way to do a full moon horoscope. So maybe what I'm going to start with, maybe I'll start with Saturn and Pluto, and I'll back into the full moon. I like to do that just to give you a bit of the context. So what I'm going to start here is the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. For those of you who've been following me for quite some time, you know that I've been talking about it a lot. It's a big thing that's been going on. Okay, Saturn and Pluto only come conjunct about once every 35 to 36 years. That's not a rare thing. It doesn't happen that often, and these two planets bring major change when they're together. Big change, Pluto, and the structure of your life. Saturn, especially in its home sign of Capricorn, and it doesn't always meet with the South Node. So this is an unusual alignment, rare, big, bringing massive change. It's bringing change in the structures of our lives with the South Node there, so that we can move towards the North Node in Cancer, so that we can create more meaning in our lives, do things that we love, do things that are really, really close to our hearts. Saturn and Pluto came the closest it's been, to being exact, in 35 years in April of 2019. Okay, so maybe I'll write that on the chart. April of 2019, it came the closest to being exact. And what we realized in April of 2019 is that there were some things in our life, especially, that have persisted for 35 years. Also, could be 35 years with Saturn and Pluto, but also with the nodes involved, could have been about 10 or so as well. What we've realized is that there were a lot of things that persisted for the past long time that were not good, that were just hard, or that we didn't like, or that were uncomfortable. If there weren't things that have just been crappy the past 10 or 35 years, then perhaps we just realized there were just things in our life that we've just been doing for 10 or 35 years that just aren't us anymore. Maybe they were at one time, maybe they weren't bad, maybe they were fine, and maybe we liked them at one time, but that we don't like them anymore. They're just not us anymore. They're not for us. They actually don't give us meaning anymore. And instead of them, they don't give us meaning, and they suck life from us a little bit. So what we decided in April 2019 was, you know what? I got to get rid of these old things. I either got to get rid of these old things that are bad for me, that have been really hurtful, that have been really hard, or I have to let go of these things that were good for me at one time, but just aren't for me right now, so that I can do things with the North Node and Cancer that I really enjoy, that's really meaningful to me, and that really touches my heart and soul in a really soft and sensitive way. And I think we started that process in April 2019. I think what we realized though in April 2019, which is just a few months ago, that it wasn't as easy as we thought. It's not like one day we can just be like, oh, I'm going to change my life. 35 years of habits and patterns and relationships and people, and I'm just going to leave them all behind and walk into the sunset. I think we realized it's actually kind of hard to do that. And it's actually kind of hard to turn our lives around because we're kind of attached to some ways in the past. And maybe we liked some things in the past and we don't want to leave them behind. Or maybe we didn't really like some things in the past, but we're attached to the feeling of like hurt. We're attached to the sadness. We're attached to the pain. We've gotten really comfortable with hurt and pain. So we realized like it was hard for us to move forward because of our attachments, our emotional attachments to the past, and not just our emotional attachments to the past, but a lot of things from the past, a lot of people from the past we still knew that we couldn't just leave, a lot of resources from the past, old homes, like old jobs, just like a lot of stuff, you know? And so I think what happened in April 2019, kind of looks like a 7, in April 2019 is that I want to change my life because I've outgrown these old things, and these old things have been hard to be something new and different, especially with Jupiter and Sagittarius and its home sign, the sign of something new and different. I want to change my life to get rid of these old things that aren't good for me, to do something new or different that's more exciting to me so that I can feel more comfortable, more at peace, and more at home in my life. But it's hard. I'm running into roadblocks. Either I am the roadblock, I think I want to move forward, but I don't know if I really do, and I got to work out some emotional stuff, or my life outwardly is the roadblock. And that's really been the story of the past few months, especially because right as Saturn and Pluto came conjunct, they didn't even come conjunct exactly. They went retrograde right before they met. And right around the time Saturn and Pluto came the closest they were going to be to being conjunct and went retrograde, Jupiter also went retrograde too. So the past few months we realized this isn't working. I want to change my life to be something better. It's not working. So what I believe that we did, Virgo, around the new moon in Virgo 2 weeks ago, is we said, I gotta get a handle on this. I gotta get a handle on this, because the more that my life doesn't really change inside me and outside me, the more I get sucked back in to these old habits and these old things with relationships and money and with people and places that just tears me up, tears me apart, and makes me feel really bad. And so we decided here around 2 weeks ago, a little bit before, because a lot of planets were moving into Virgo before that, but about 2 or 3 weeks ago, when a whole bunch of planets moved into Virgo, right after Jupiter went direct, a few weeks before that, we decided I can't. These reasons that I have been avoiding making a change in my life because I'm afraid, I'm scared because this person wants this and this person wants that, and I got an old job. Well, I can't do it anymore. I got to take matters and continue to take matters into my own hands, which I think we've been trying to do this whole year. But I got to take matters into my own hands here, and I got to put my head down, and I really have to make my life different. And I have to make it different in a practical way, Virgo and Earth sign, in a practical way on the day-to-day to be something else. And I think that's what we did. And I think the past 2 or 3 weeks, we've started to actually see this change that we wanted to happen in April 2019 that did not happen. We, for whatever reason, was delayed. We started to see it actually start to happen. Maybe it didn't happen in the way that we wanted it to happen, in the way that we hoped it would happen, but we started to see it bit by bit actually take hold in our reality on the day-to-day, in our external environment, in small and simple ways. So now what's going on is that we're finally stepping into this big change, and we're starting to see like a new day dawning, especially with all these planets in Jupiter and in Virgo making a square to Jupiter. We're starting to literally see a new day dawning, a new job, a new set of daily routines, new stuff going on. Are we where we want to be yet? Has the transformation to change our life complete? No, because Saturn and Pluto won't come exact until January of, what are we now, of 2020? This upcoming January. Okay, so the change is not complete for our life to be what we really want it to be. And I think it's even going to take some time after January until about July of 2020, when we have the last eclipse in Cancer on the solstice point. Okay, so I think it's going to take us a little bit more time to change our life to be completely what we want it to be, to set us up on a whole new course and a whole new direction that we like better. But we're starting to realize the past few weeks, but I'm doing it. I may not be complete yet with my transformation, but this is a major moment where I'm finally starting to see the transformation actually take form in the physical, in the body, in the real world. Okay, and that's where we come into now, this full moon in Pisces. Now that we've started to see our life, this change, that we wanted to happen in April that couldn't happen because we were scared, afraid other things start to take form in reality. Now we get to this full moon in Pisces. Here's the moon in Pisces. What makes it a full moon is that it's opposite what? It's opposite all this Virgo stuff that I was talking about with the sun there from the past few weeks. So now that we have what? Done a whole bunch of work in a practical way on the day-to-day in reality that we can see and touch to fix our lives. Now the full moon in Pisces says you got to, because of course Pisces is the opposite sign of Virgo, you got to do the opposite of that. You have to do the opposite now of all this work on the day-to-day, and you have to go inward to take care of your spirit and to take care of your soul. So what's happened is that now that we have started to see a reality change in a physical way to be something better for us, now we can listen to our emotions and take a minute out and take a step back to say, okay, whew, look at how far we've come. Look at what we've done, you know, and to kind of process everything that way. We couldn't have gotten to this emotional place, to this emotional release that the full moon in Pisces is asking of us now beforehand. We couldn't have gotten to it beforehand because beforehand, our life wasn't really in a good spot. So we couldn't let our emotions out to play when we're still in the thick of our issues. You know, I think that's been part of the thing. And now that we're out of the thick of our issues from the past that were really hard and hurtful for us, we're not completely out of them. Again, the transformation's not totally complete, but now that we're in a better spot than we've been all year, and now that we're in a better spot than I think we've been not all year, but 4 years, now that we're in a better spot that we've been for many years, feeling more stable, more secure, more confident than we've been in a long time, especially now that Uranus is in Taurus, I think now we can say, now I can let my guard down. Now I can let my guard down, and now I can stop focusing on the day-to-day, and now I can go inward to get right with my spirit and soul and to deal with some stuff emotionally. And that to me is where we come into this full moon in Pisces, okay? Full moons, now I'll backtrack to the full moon. Full moons to me have a lot to do with what? Endings. Releasing things, letting go of things. It doesn't have to do with ending, releasing, and letting go. It has to do with stepping into things or that we've been working on for a really long time and completing those things. So if I wanted to interpret this full moon in Pisces in the context of all the information that I just gave you, then this to me, full moon, an ending. An ending in what? Pisces. What does Pisces have to do? Well, to be honest with you, Pisces has a lot to do with the past. Pisces itself is a natural symbol of endings because Pisces is the last sign and the 12th sign of the zodiac before what? Before we start all over again at the first sign in Aries. So this is a major ending of all endings. We are literally ending at this full moon a bunch of things from the past. We are letting go of the past, letting go of old things. A lot, and especially too with this being Pisces, it's emotional things, old emotional habits, emotional patterns, emotional hangups, emotional issues. It's time for us to finally understand those emotional issues and those emotional hangups and what we've been feeling that's been hard. It's time for us to finally understand those things, accept our emotions for better or for worse from the past, and to let them go so that we can embrace the fact that new and different and better times are coming for us, especially with this full moon square Jupiter. Jupiter is the sign of adventure, of hope, of new territories, of optimism, of excitement. Pisces also has a lot to do with faith. So it's really all about here letting go of anything from the past 35 years that has been, don't want to say bad, we could be letting go of good things too. You know, just because we're walking away from something doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad thing. It just means it's not meant for us anymore. And this is a huge release, even an emotional release of everything from the past that we now have realized we need to leave behind so that we can move forward, creating different situations for us that we really like. And so that we can start to step into new situations. Again, Pisces has a lot to do with our spirit, our soul, what makes us feel peace and at whole, so that we can start to step into new and better situations that excite us more from here on out. Do I think that this is going to be like an easy thing? Yes and no. I will say this. I actually really love this Pisces full moon. I love this Pisces full moon because it's conjunct Neptune, which is the natural ruler of Pisces. And I personally believe that Neptune and Pisces have a bit of an affinity for each other. I also like this full moon too because this moon is not only conjunct Pisces, conjunct Neptune in Pisces, which I tend to like, be partial towards Pisces, but it's also square Jupiter. Okay, I like Jupiter. I almost always interpret Jupiter positively, and Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Neptune, of Pisces, before Neptune was discovered by astronomers. So to me, Jupiter, Sagittarius, Pisces, Neptune, they have like a thing. They all have a thing. The moon, it's like a good thing. So part of me really loves this full moon in Pisces for us to really begin to open up to see new possibilities, new ways of being, new ways of experiencing life, to bring new feelings into our awareness that we haven't felt ever, or that we haven't felt in a really long time, to start to reawaken parts of ourselves in a major way so that we can live and experience life from a very different and better place. And to feel again, and to feel good feelings. So there's a part of me that like loves this. And not only is this all about reawakening our soul to feel good things and to see new possibilities, but it's also about understanding our past, with Jupiter being the planet of understanding ourselves, our past, our soul, what our soul's true needs are and real reality is, and kind of moving forward from that in a better place, especially with all of these planets in Virgo. So there's a part of me that really, really loves this full moon major sense of ending and releasing of a lot of bad, old, hard chapters so that we can step into better ones. But there's a part of me too that feels like we could be a little bit frustrated and a little bit emotional. Maybe I'll say why. We could be a little bit emotional, again, just by the nature of Neptune and Pisces. Neptune in Pisces, is a water sign. Neptune rules Pisces. And water signs have to do with our emotions, and especially Pisces. And Neptune can superpower those. So we could be feeling very weepy about this. And we could be feeling a bit confused. Sometimes Neptune can bring the confusion. Now that all these things from my past are fading away in a major, major, major way, what does this mean? And who am I? And there could be a lot of big questions about that. I think we're getting a lot of good, new, exciting answers with the square to Jupiter. So I think there's a lot of good things coming in to take the place of the old things, but there could be that sense of confusion. Not only could there be that sense of confusion with the Neptune stuff, but there could also be that sense of like, what do you also get with Neptune? Like weepiness, but I don't want to let these things go. I was here for 35 years, for whatever reason, even if it was bad, it was just comfortable. It's from, there could be like a lot of this like tearful stuff. Beautiful, because new things are coming to take its place. More understanding over the past is happening, but that doesn't mean that we're not emotional about it. Just because new and better things are happening doesn't mean that saying goodbye to old things is an easy thing to still do. So there's a lot of that going on. Beautiful new emotions coming in, but sometimes in order to make space for the beautiful new life emotions, we need to release and to feel all of the weight of our past so that we can finally release it, let the past let us go, release its hold on us, and move forward. So a lot of that, stepping into new chapters, but in order for us to step into these new, we have to feel all the feelings of the past and to understand them, especially now that we're in a tad bit of a better place. So that's part of the reason why I like this full moon. I think it's very good and eye-opening in a lot of ways, but why it could be a little bit emotional and challenging. Another reason why this full moon could be a little bit challenging is not only because of the Neptune can bring the weepiness, the sadness. We're processing like years and years and years of stuff, especially with Pluto involved, because this full moon isn't a sextile to Saturn-Pluto in the South Node, which is why I started there, I suppose. But especially with like Pluto involved too, this can also be processing like years and years and years of like karmic stuff, whatever karma means to you. It's like processing all this stuff and like overcoming all this karma and letting it all go. So sure, good, but emotional, because all that stuff is hitting home and we're having to purge it. Okay, so I think there's a lot of that. But it's happening. Another reason why I think this could be challenging is because this full moon is opposite Mars, and Mars is conjunct the sun, and Mars doesn't always get along with the moon so well, and Mars can kind of push the issues a bit. So even though we've got this like really beautiful full moon, I think helping us to let go of decades-long karma and uncomfortable situations, which could be a big emotional release, and helping us to step into new and better situations, there's part of us that's a little frustrated. And always that I say with Mars, like it can bring a little bit of anger and a little bit of, just anger and frustration. I think part of that is because even though we know we're at a better spot than we've been all this year, and even though we know we're at a better spot than where we've been for not just all this year, but for years prior to this, I think there's a part of us that's frustrated that we're not everywhere we want to be, like especially with all these planets still in Virgo. I think there's a part of us that's like, yes, I'm finally in a better spot than I have been. That's allowed me to let my guard down, to feel the things I wouldn't let myself feel years ago because I wasn't in a good enough space for it. Like, not only are we in a good spot there that we feel like we've done enough work, we know, or we still feel like we haven't done all of the work. Yes, I'm in a good spot than I've ever been to let the past go, but I'm not where I want to be. Maybe there are still some things that we're still waiting on to happen and to fall into place that haven't quite happened, that haven't quite fallen into place, or that we still feel like we need to do that we haven't quite done. So there could be part of us that's torn. You know, it's an opposition back and forth. I'm torn because I want to go inward and I want to finally process emotionally my past and let emotionally my past go. But then there's another part of us that's like, but how could you? How could you process things emotionally when you've got all these things to do on the day-to-day that have not been done, that still need to be done, that you still have to work for, that, so there could be this like anger and frustration, and there could be like you beating up on yourself a little bit. Like, I can't process, I can't let myself feel things because I still am not entirely out of the fray, even though I'm partially out of the fray. That could be a bit hard there. Maybe we could feel, yeah, we still got more work to do as well. Maybe we could also be a little bit hard on ourselves too about what we did do in the past, how we did or did not handle things. Maybe in the past I should have done things this way. Maybe if I did this 15 years ago in the middle of this mess, like things would have changed. So I think there could be a lot of that too, just because Virgo can be a tad bit critical and picky at times. So I think there's a lot of this as well. Like, how can I let myself feel and release the past, not only when I still have more work to do that hasn't been done and more things to fall into place, but when I should have done this and I should have done that, you know, and part of it's my fault. You know, there's like a lot of this other stuff that's like also coming into the picture. And I think there really is a need here to release. Like, Pisces is a sign of compassion. It's a sign of self-love. So it's a lot about us finally at this full moon in Pisces saying, look, no matter what you have or have not done or did not do, or no matter how much you contributed to your situation to make it worse or to make it better, like, no matter, you have to be easy on yourself and you have to love yourself through this time, and you have to be compassionate and move forward. And not only do you have to be compassionate to yourself, because that's going to be the key to allow you to loosen your grip on the past and to move forward. Not only do you have to be compassionate to yourself, but you have to have faith and you have to have trust that these things that you have yet to do or that haven't quite yet happened, that they will happen in their own way and in their own time. You know, Pisces has a lot to do as well with like not only like unconditional love and compassion, being a very charitable sign, but also has a lot to do with like what else, magic, synchronicity. I also think a lot of like God, the universe, spirit, like angels, whatever you want to call it, like your beliefs about the universal truth of the way the world works also falls into this. So I think what we're having to learn here is like, even if we're in a good spot, but we're not entirely where we want to be yet, we're having to learn how to take a moment for ourselves to get comfortable with where we are before we move forward, and to get comfortable emotionally, to let go of a lot of old emotional karmic stuff. And in order to let go of the emotional karmic stuff, to really surrender control over our life, to be more compassionate and more patient with ourselves, to show ourselves more self-love, and to have faith that God, spirit, the universe is working behind the scenes. Another Pisces thing, Pisces has a lot to do with things working behind the scenes, will work behind the scenes to help us in our favor, to move us forward. So I think there's a lot of that also coming into the picture here. If I'm ever going to go farther, if I'm ever going to not only change my life in a real way, but to continue making that real change in my life to be something very different than it has been, I have to release now the emotions while I can, so that I can step into new chapters. And in order for me to release the emotions from the past that have been really hard, that have been built up, so that I can experience all these beautiful things that life has to offer me, again, I have to have faith, I have to trust, I have to release, I have to surrender, I have to have compassion for myself, and I have to let God do the work in the background, and I have to just trust that I have done everything that I could, the best that I knew how to do it, for better or for worse, and that we're going to move on. And I think that if you can do that, there can be a lot of good things that can start to happen in the next few weeks and even in the next few days following this full moon in Pisces. If you can allow yourself to kind of let your emotional guard down and to feel and to process the past and to heal from the past, now that you've gotten to a good space, then I think you're going to find the next few days that there are, I mean, Pisces, magic, synchronicity, God, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to realize are working behind the scenes in your favor that are now all of a sudden going to start to come to you, but that are going to come to you in more positive, easier ways. You're going to find and you're going to realize that like God was there all along. You maybe didn't think a few weeks or months ago that you were in a good spot, and then all of a sudden you get to this point and now you are in a good spot, and now you realize you had invisible help from weird places that I think this Pisces full moon is going to start to mobilize in your favor. So in the next few weeks, I think you're going to start to find people from the past or people in weird places who you didn't think were working with you that are going to start to work with you. But it's not because you forced things and it's not because you controlled things. It's because you took a moment at this full moon in Pisces to let go. So that not only your real world can change, your physical environment, but so that your emotions can catch up to where you are. Because if you keep trying to plow forward to fix things in your life at this point in time without doing the emotional work, if you keep trying to plow forward, then I feel like there's a part of us that wouldn't be able to sustain it, that wouldn't be able to sustain us. And why would we want to sustain it? You know, why would we want to keep doing work on the day to day without our emotions being involved and without our emotions being connected? And I think what we're starting to realize at this Pisces full moon is that we simply cannot go any further in life, even if we haven't gotten as far as we want, without living a life that really resonates truly with our heart and with our spirit and with our soul. And we're trying to learn at this full moon how to honor the needs of our heart and soul, overcome the past, and bring the needs of our heart and soul to come more to weigh and more to bear on our current situation. This is not about doing. At this point in our lives, and this point in the astrology, doing work and serving and slaving away for other people, places, and things, and sacrificing. You know, this is about us really beginning to create a life in which we feel we're all present, we're wholly present, that we love, you know, that gets us on all levels. And that's what this full moon in Pisces is trying to say. If you, whatever you create from here on out, from this time in your life moving forward, cannot be out of obligation, cannot be out of fear, cannot be out of worry, cannot be out of wanting to stay busy, but must be done from a truly surrendered, heart-based place where you can be present 24/7 or as much as possible as you can in your life. And that's what we're trying to figure out. To let go of this idea that life is going to be always bad or hard, or that life has to be one way, and to open our minds up to the fact that life can actually be very different and can actually be much better, and that we need to infuse this emotion, this love, this sensitivity into our lives, not just one day out of the year, not just for a quick moment, but for all of our plans moving forward, if we ever plan on being the person that we want or need to be and living a life that we can feel fully connected to. And with Mercury and Venus conjunct at the last degrees of Virgo, I think there's a big part of us that's like really trying to figure that out. How can I realign my life, not just on the day-to-day, but how can I bring my spirit and soul? How can I have spirit inform my plans? How can I connect emotionally to my job? We're not meant to be slaves and drones. We're meant to have a life we love, we're present in, and that's what we're really trying to figure out. How can I connect my life to my emotions, connect my life to a higher purpose, bring everything together? And I just feel like this is going to be a really beautiful moment in the astrology to release old patterns and habits that aren't working, and to finally step into a new chapter on the day-to-day, not just in your mind, not just behind the scenes, but to finally start to step into a new chapter in reality in which you are present every single day and where you truly love it. But before that can happen, you got to feel all the bad things, and you got to let go of all the bad things from the past, and you have to get in touch with truly with what your heart wants. And you may have to cry some tears with the Neptune influence, and you may have to work through some anger with the Mars influence. which could be a little bit hard. Do I want to get mad, or do I want to cry at the same time? Do I want to fight someone, or do I want to be hugged and cuddled by someone? That's kind of the challenge that we've got at this full moon. Sometimes too, with the Mars opposite Neptune, it can bring a passive aggressiveness. I'm angry and I want to fight you, but I don't want to fight you, you know? So there can be a lot of feelings that are going on here. I'm angry, I got things to do, I didn't do things right I need to be, but I just want to cry on someone's shoulder and be hugged and kissed. And you're going to have to find a way to break through and to understand the emotion, and really to work through it, to let yourself feel all of it, so that you can get to this other space on the other side where you're broken wide open, feeling more free to live a life that really truly gets you all around. Mercury conjunct Venus is going to help you realign your life on the day-to-day back to what you need from a more soulful place. And the Mercury conjunct Venus too can also make conversations very, very positive. Perhaps that's another thing I should say. You can also have some very good conversations with relationships or with yourself, especially if you're not afraid to be vulnerable and open about what's going on, to help you kind of move forward and forge your way into new territories. Now, perhaps one more thing that I'll say too is that with Saturn starting to station to go direct in the next few days as well, if I haven't made this clear already, I'll say it one more time. I really do think things are going to start to move forward. Like, things are going to start to open. Doors you thought were closed that would never open to you in the past are now going to start to open, because you're letting all the past go and you're allowing things to flow to you more at ease, and because God is working behind the scenes. And with Saturn going direct, we're going to start to see not only all these things from the past few months since April 2019 that haven't been happening start to happen, but we're going to start to see them happen with more certainty, with more commitment, with more stability, and with more finality, to really begin to propel us forward in the last bit of our journey until Saturn and Pluto come exact in January of 2020. Another thing, I'll just say some of the inside degrees really quickly, really pretty. I think I did a good job at covering a lot of these, but for some of the inside degrees for 20, 21, and 22 degrees Pisces, we get cracking yourself open to let go of your old self and identity, learning lessons from the past, discovering life afresh. I like it, being reborn in a sense, learning to not assume and plan ahead, but to just be present and enjoy the moment and the experience. I love this. Trance states, aware of other realms and realities. Pisces sometimes can bring a real spiritual awareness and enlightenment of sorts. Expectant and waiting for breakthroughs. I think we are. There's still some things in our life haven't happened yet that we feel like needed to happen, that we've been wanting to happen, that we've been promised to happen. So I think that we're just waiting, and we're so close, and God's going to take in and give us the breakthroughs that we need, or give us more breakthroughs on top of the breakthroughs that we've already gotten to like propel us forward. Unsure which way the tides will turn, but prepared for either. Meeting up against the hard places and discovering how to turn them completely around. I'm telling you, I love it. Reworking the primordial soil with hard work and craftsmanship. It is. It's about rewriting your story and stepping into new chapters that have been 35 years in coming. It's not quite there yet, but we're more there than we've ever been. And now that we're more there than we've ever been, it's time to let yourself feel, so that you can make sure that you have everything you need to finish this process from a healthier, better place that's more in tune with your spirit and soul. Okay. And if some of you, I get some people who are like, 35 years, I didn't exist 35. I didn't exist. I wasn't alive 35 years ago. And it's like, well, your life is about to change in a way that you've never experienced before in your life. It's going to be very different these next 35 years than what your life was like since you were born, which could have been 20 years ago, 28 years ago, whatever it was. So big changes afoot. And now we are starting to see in small, simple ways that happen that are only going to grow from here. But in order for to grow more, release, let go, and heal your soul and get right with all that. Okay. And trust and have faith and allow new things to happen. We also have planted a lot of seeds, I think, since April as well of this past April. So it's also about letting the new seeds that we just started to plant also start to come back as well. All right, now your card for this full moon, I'll go with this one. we've got the King of Swords reversed. Man, what do I want to say about this card? Because this is like, what do we have in Mercury ruled signs? We've got all this stuff in Virgo. Man, I want to say, this is the way I might interpret this. You got to let go of the need to rationally understand and the need to rationally explain your life and explain your experiences and explain your feelings. Like Neptune, Pisces, where this full moon is, doesn't need to explain, realizes there are things greater than what we as humans can understand. That there are some things that are just far bigger than what our consciousness can realistically comprehend. And this is the way I'm feeling this card today, is that you have to let yourself be open to mysteries, be open to magic, be open to wonder, be open to be surprised. You have to allow your mind to either not try to make sense of things that cannot be made sense of and to feel it. Maybe that's it, to let yourself feel and process emotionally. Sometimes the words are a hindrance. Sometimes thinking things is a problem. You know, it reminds me of like this thing I was watching once about how it's a metaphor, I suppose, speaking during intimacy. You know, when you're about to kiss someone and then all of a sudden they make a joke in the middle of the moment and then they ruin the moment, you know, not that jokes are bad during intimacy, but like there's something about it that's like to try to make sense of your feelings is almost like indecent in some way. I know we got a lot of planets in Virgo opposing this full moon and Pisces. There's a part of me that just wants to say, like, if you feel something, let yourself feel it. Let yourself feel it and let yourself be it. And once you let yourself feel it, the emotion, once you accept the emotion for what it really is, it's going to get a lot easier for you to let it go. Sometimes you trying to make sense of things and put it into boxes is actually part of what can create a little bit of the problem from your healing and your growth. The Page of Cups. I also love this card. This to me at the bottom has a lot to do with synchronicities and in magic. I think it is. I think there's a part of this full moon that's a lot about opening yourself up to new possibilities and ways of being that you couldn't have, that you can't logically comprehend or that you couldn't logically explain. You know, we're going into a totally new chapter, a new phase of our life these next 35 years. Especially with Neptune in its home sign in Pisces. And because we're doing something that's unknown, and with the square to Jupiter, we're doing something that's unknown that we've never experienced before, we're not going to be able, like, if you don't know something, how can you talk about it? How can you logically understand it? So I think there's something to be said at this full moon of like, you have to let yourself, I don't know why I'm getting the student vibe. None of these cards to me really have a lot to do with students, but there's a part of like, you have to be a student to your own feelings and of what you're trying to learn and of what you're trying to experience without trying to force them to be something that they're not. You know, there's a new way of thinking and of seeing the world that's higher and that can encompass more of what's occurred to you than maybe what we now see. And you have to allow your belief systems and your mind and the way that you see yourself to get higher and to get bigger and to encompass more ideas and more possibilities with a bigger understanding of the way that the world works and all its complexities. You know, to me, Pisces is a sign that has a lot to do with complexity. And so there's another part of me that just says, be open to the mystery and to totally rewiring your mindset to accept things or understand things in ways that you wouldn't have before, but rewiring your mind to understand things from a perspective that's bigger and that's greater and higher than what you've previously experienced. Okay, so maybe that's what I'll leave you with there today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like it on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, check out my website, and I will talk to you later.